as you know, after 2002, the carnage which took place in Gujarat, there were various individual cases concerning individual instances which were filed. Zakia Jafri herself lost her husband in what is known as the Gulbarg Society massacre. And Gulbarg Society case was going on, but of course, neither the victims nor various organizations working with them were satisfied with the way these things were happening, nor was the NHRC, National Human Rights Commission, satisfied. So petitions were filed in the Supreme Court. And those trials were stayed in 2003. After which, a lot of people had felt, and Zakia herself had felt very strongly, that these were not individual spontaneous instances arising from the Godhra incident, but they were pre-planned incidents which were allowed to happen, which were encouraged, and there was a conspiracy which played out when these massacres took place. So while individual cases were being looked into through individual trials, there was a larger conspiracy which was not being looked into by any of the courts, and therefore she made a complaint in 2006 before the police, saying that look, and it was an exhaustive complaint going into 60 pages, 60-70 pages, saying that look, there's more than 60 persons who are involved in this larger conspiracy. And she talked not just about Gulbarg Society, which was one of the incidents. She spoke about various incidents outside Ahmedabad, outside Gulbarg Society, etc., and said that there was a larger conspiracy involving the Chief Minister, the then Chief Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, various other politicians, bureaucrats, police, and certain right-wing organizations. And this conspiracy needs to be looked at separately and independently. Okay? And that's why she made a complaint. Complaint was not responded to. She filed a petition in the High Court, saying that treat my complaint as a first information report so that investigation can begin. This the High Court rejected it, saying that if you want, you file a private complaint. Now, private complaint is well nigh an impossibility in these kind of circumstances, especially because you needed sanctions to prosecute ministers, bureaucrats, etc. Also, the way the situation in Gujarat was especially at that time, no police, no magistrate, no police officer would have entered in such a private complaint. That's my assessment. So from the High Court's order, which allowed her, which didn't outright reject her case, but said that you go and approach the magistrate, she approached the Supreme Court. Now, during this period, before she approached the Supreme Court had already appointed a special investigating team. Being satisfied that the police were doing a shoddy job, they appointed a special investigating team to look in, to investigate or to further investigate all the other trials which were going on, the major trials, including Gulbarg, Naroda Patia, Naroda Gam, etc. So when she approached the Supreme Court asked the same special investigating team which had been appointed to look into even her grievances, and subsequently also asked the police to further investigate. So essentially what the Supreme Court did was to disagree with the High Court's order, namely go to the magistrate. Supreme Court said, sorry, we want ourselves to be satisfied that proper investigation is carried out in respect of her complaints which are of larger nature. This was the background to how the matter reached the Supreme Court. After reaching the Supreme Court, of course, the Supreme Court appointed a separate amicus curiae. Now, for the Gulbarg trial, another amicus was appointed. That is Mr. Harish Salve for a long time. And for this, after 2-3 efforts, finally, Mr. Raju Ramchandran was appointed as the amicus curiae, who was asked to go into the matter, examine, who was even allowed to meet the witnesses independently and see whether the investigation which was being carried out by SIT was going in the proper direction or not. Finally, at the end of it all, special investigating team said that we have completed our report. Mr. Raju Ramchandran said yes, but in respect of certain matters, he felt that that Mr. Modi should undergo a trial, and he recommended that. Special investigative team said that we have completed our investigation. One thing you must bear in mind that during this entire process, neither the special investigating team's reports nor the amicus's report were being accessed by Zakia Jafri. These were filed in sealed cover with the Supreme Court. Only the Supreme Court was looking at it. Now the law is that if once investigation is over, then the higher constitutional courts, whether it be the High Court or the Supreme Court, stops looking at the matter and sends it to the magistrate or the Sessions Court, wherever the trial is going on or is to start, okay, to then determine whether this investigation report is right, wrong, bad, good, etc., etc. So accordingly, the Supreme Court, further investigation was over. Supreme Court asked the magistrate, okay, the SIT to file its report before the magistrate, and the magistrate to decide whether the report should be accepted or not accepted. But Supreme Court was cautious and made one important caveat in that if any of the accused, and remember there were more than 60 accused which had nothing to do with the Gulbarga Society case, that if any of the accused is to be let off, then hearing should be given to Zakia Jafri before letting off such person. So in this context, the matter finally lags back with the magistrate. See, between 2002 and 2005-06, everybody who was working in Gujarat was fully aware. This was not a spontaneous, I am talking about the post-Gojra situation, that it was not a spontaneous outpouring of emotions, but there was a conspiracy. Things were allowed to happen, things were deliberately allowed to go out of hand, okay? But nobody, everybody had this strong feeling, but it was not something which was provable. Okay? Even the CJP had done a tribunal, okay, having headed by a retired Supreme Court judge, having another retired Supreme Court judge, High Court judge, and various other reputed personalities in the tribunal. They had done a people's tribunal in Gujarat, okay, whose report came out soon after, okay, which also came to the conclusion, okay, that there was a conspiracy. So everybody had this feeling that there was a conspiracy, but how do you prove it was an issue. In the meanwhile, you had one of the senior most officers, Mr. Shri Kumar, okay, who was in charge of the intelligence, okay, just after these things happened, who was in charge of the intelligence and who was reporting to the Home Minister, who was the Chief Minister, okay, on a regular basis. Okay. He filed certain affidavits before the Nanavaty Commission, which was a government established commission to go into the causes of the riots. It is a recommendatory body which was going into that, where various police officers were called for examination, cross-examination. He came and he said that, and he basically filed affidavits. He filed certain reports which he had given earlier in 2002, about 3 or 4 reports. Also, he had made some presentation before the Election Commission, okay, in 2002 itself, subsequent to the riots, all of which clearly indicated that there was a large conspiracy. And this is for the first time a senior police officer, one of the senior most police officers, comes to the court and files affidavits, files statements, and proves it with his contemporaneous notings in a diary, okay, to show that this was not just a spontaneous outpouring. The Chief Minister was seized of the matter, and he was directing the whole show. He was the director of the whole show which was going on, kind of thing. So because once these documents came in the hands, then it was decided now let's go ahead and do something, because these were the documents which were submitted along with